last team for today, the Green Bay Packers. For people just tuning in, if you're a Green Bay Packers fan, we're going over every team in the NFL this season. We're going over the 2024 season, talking about it, reviewing it, going into the 2025 offseason, into the draft, what they did, if we liked it, if we didn't like it, and then we're going to go into the 2025 season and give our predictions. The Green Bay Packers were 11-6, 7th seed in the playoffs, 3rd in the NFC North. We're going to disagree on a lot of this, I feel like, talking about the Packers, I feel like, just before I continue to go on. I could be wrong. Playoff results, 22-10. They were at Philly in the wild card round. What's really crazy about this Green Bay Packers team is if you ask across the league, you fans, not fans, it feels like this season was almost a little bit of a letdown for them, but 11 wins, and they held the Super Bowl champs to the lowest points during the postseason. And that has to feel a little bit like you did something right this season. I do want to highlight Jordan Love sprained his MCL and then tweaked his groin. I think it really clearly impacted him throughout the season. And then one other thing that I want to highlight as well is they were the first team in NFL history to play 5 regular season games against opponents with 13 plus wins and still make the playoffs. Although how it went versus how it could have went, I think really speaks volumes of this team as a whole. And more importantly, the coaching staff, where it feels like LaFleur still doesn't really get the respect that he deserves as being one of the top coaches in the entire NFL.
Yeah, I think LaFleur's great. I think he's definitely one of the best coaches in the NFL. The Packers played a pretty tough schedule last year, and Jordan Love getting hurt, although they did win, the 3 games that he missed. I think they won 2 of them. He went 2-1 they went 2-1 in that stretch. I could be wrong, but the 2 games that Malik Willis played, they won, and then he came back against Minnesota, and they battled back at the very end.
That game was crazy.
They were losing like 28-0 to start, and they battled back. I think like he was still banged up. I think he came back a little bit earlier than he should have. I think they recommended 3 to 6 weeks for that injury, and he came back in 3 because he didn't. Towards the end of that Minnesota game, he started to look better, but to start, it was a little shaky. But once he got to Arizona, it looked like he was fully back, I would say. But yeah, he had a pretty great year, but just couldn't get it done in the playoffs against the Eagles. But I think the Eagles just kind of have his number and the Packers' number as of recent.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. Yeah, and then just to highlight, I mean, LaFleur has won 67% of his games. He's really good. The one season where he went under 500 was the year that it was Aaron Rodgers' last season in Green Bay. Sorry, I don't know why I blanked so hard right there. But so this guy is he's proven at this point that he's going to be in the mix pretty much no matter what.
Yeah, he's a great coach. I mean, that division that they played in was just so happened to have a team that went 15-2, and
2 teams. Wait, how many games did the Vikings win? 13.
The Vikings went. I'm sorry. Yeah, the Lions went 15-2. The Vikings went 14-3, 13-4, 14-3. So it just so happened that you're in the
games.
Did they? I
think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
they
went 14-2. Yeah. Either way, you're in a division where the 2 teams ahead of you had 14 wins. So that's not something that you have to deal with on a yearly basis.
No, not at all. Some stats about this team. I think it's going to surprise a lot. I feel like this team is extremely underrated. The offensive DVOA, they were fourth in the entire NFL. Passing DVOA, they were third. Rushing DVOA, they were third. Something that stuck out to me, was this passing. It felt like their passing game was so bad, but it really wasn't. Something that stuck out to me was I knew how great this running game was last season. They were really good. So yeah, I feel like that. Although the Packers were bad, it felt like they're bad last season, but they weren't.
Throwing the football, the numbers that Jordan Love put up were good for them throwing the football. But like, if you look through like some of these individual receiver stats, they didn't really have a guy. And that kind of is what has been like the narrative for the Packers is like their receiving core just hasn't been the greatest. That could change this year with the addition of Matthew Golden, but that run game was phenomenal. Josh Jacobs ran for 1,300 yards, had 15 touchdowns. Like you can't really draw it up any better than that. Top 3 running back in the NFL last year.
Jeff Hafley. We talk a lot about how important coaching staffs are. This defense was 27th in DVOA last season. They hopped up to 7th in overall defensive DVOA last year. And I mean, the season end ranking this year to 7th. What's a better jump than that?
Yeah, that defense played a lot better last year, and they were a much more complete team, it feels like, this year than years past. I think even though they had success without Jordan Love necessarily there, I think that just goes to show how important and how great this coaching staff is that they were able to not really skip a beat the few weeks that their starting quarterback was hurt. I thought they did a great job with Malik Willis those few weeks, and they put together some pretty solid game plans.
It reminds me a little bit about the conversation that we're having earlier today, why it's so important to have a complete team.
To have a great coaching staff. Yeah, I will always agree with having a great coaching staff.
It feels like the Packers have one of those complete teams where the coaching staff matches up. I think it's important that we're getting a second year of Hafley, and obviously the infrastructure that LaFleur has put in place, it works. So yeah, I mean, this team, I really, like I said, it feels like they underachieved last season because of how high expectations were. But even where it felt like everything went wrong with this team, they still performed really well on both sides of the football.
I will say this, those 2 games that they won that Malik Willis played, they threw the ball 23 times in 2 games. And they basically just said, we're going to hand the ball off and just beat the shit out of you rushing the football. Even though I'm looking at it right now, I think Will Levis beat the Titans in that game that they played Green Bay because he had 2 picks, and that really doesn't help because I'm looking at the box score for that day. Malik Willis 13 for 19, 202 yards and a touchdown, and then he was their leading rusher with 6 carries for 73 yards and a touchdown.
He snapped.
That's crazy. Sean Clifford couldn't win the starting job.
Well, yeah, obviously. Key storylines to this season: poor division play. They finished 1-5, only one win in the division, and it was a blocked field goal against the Bears. Even when you just look at that, and we're gonna get into the predictions. Obviously, this team's not gonna go 1-5 in the division again this year. They're just not.
The rest of the division, the Bears will be a little better, but the Lions and Vikings are both be worse.
I don't know. I think the Bears stink still. We'll get into that. That's a story for a different day. Yeah. But this is a team that won 11 games and went 1-5 in their division. I feel like that's an opportunity for them to improve. Again, playing the 5 regular season games against opponents with 13+ wins, and then boom, you go into the playoffs and you match up against the buzzsaw that's the Eagles, who won 15 games last season, right? I
Yeah.
mean, this team played so many great teams last season and still found a way to only lose 6. So again, Packers underrated, honestly, it feels like a little bit. 2025 offseason, some losses, Jair Alexander, AJ Dillon, Josh Myers. Um, am I missing anybody for losses on this? Do you have anything else? The Jair Alexander, I feel like, is one of those names. Like it's like a name shock value almost a little bit, but it feels like he was worn out his welcome a little bit in Green Bay. Like the coin toss situation in Carolina, the him never being able to really stay healthy for them the entire time, the weird media scrums that he had. It just feels like they were a little done with him. And this defense has had success with him off the field no matter what. So it's a name shock value. Like if you don't really pay attention, you could be like, oh my God, they lost Jair Alexander. But really, he wasn't doing much for them.
Yeah, honestly, I'm surprised that it took this long for them to move on from one another because of all those things that you just mentioned. It really seemed like that was a relationship that needed to come to an end sooner rather than later, and they made the right decision moving on from him, excuse me. But yeah, I have to Daryl Slayton, Eric Stokes, Eric Wilson, Josh Myers, AJ Dillon is like that's about really it for losses.
Some additions: Aaron Banks, guard; Nate Hobbs, corner; Mecole Hardman. It doesn't do anything for me. And then the Madden legend, Isaiah Simmons. If you know, you know.
Mecole Hardman is going to have a touchdown for the Packers in the red zone this year when I need like I'll bet on like Josh Jacobs to score this drive and they'll be on the 1 yard line and they'll run some play to Mecole Hardman and
A jet sweep to Mecole.
I'll freak out. Yeah. That's just a guy that just will steal the most random touchdowns from you at some point in the game.
Definitely. To continue with the offseason, we're going into the 2025 draft. This team had 9 picks. Matthew Golden, obviously, is the highlight in the first round, ended the 23-year drought of the Packers not taking a first round wide receiver while they were in Green Bay. It was cool to watch him get drafted, and the crowd was super fired up.
They were juiced.
Anthony Belton, offensive tackle; Savion Williams, wide receiver; a D end, another D tackle, a corner, and then an offensive lineman. I know that you're not really that high on the Matthew Golden pick, based on just some conversations me and you have had. I get that to a point, because he wasn't really that successful at Texas the way that you would think somebody who would be a first round pick would be, but he had such a stretch last year where it felt like he finally came into his game and he made so many tough catches and was kind of a game breaker for Texas last year. I like Matthew Golden a lot. And I think that even some scouts and the rhetoric around him was even he could potentially be the number 1 wide receiver in this class. I mean, obviously Tet went to the Panthers, but he was highly regarded. And I know we're not doing camp talk that much, but he's obviously been getting a lot of praise. It seems like him and Jordan Love are on the same page so far now that they're playing together, which I obviously think that has to matter a little bit. Got to be on the same page with your quarterback.
I will say this. I think that he's an upgrade to this wide receiver room day one. I don't really love this wide receiver room. I'll say something nice about the Jordan Love is that he did a lot for these receivers, and they were like the worst at catching the football in the NFL last year. So
Yeah,
he had to battle against that throughout the season. So I think as long as Matthew Golden can catch the football, he'll be all right.
yeah. I think that the reasoning why you can say something like that is because you know what you're getting from Jordan Love at the quarterback position because he plays it pretty consistent. And
For half of the season, yeah.
And what he does is elevates talent, and you know what you're getting from him at the quarterback position. So that's why it doesn't really matter. I don't think it really, people love to kind of oh, the Packers don't have a number one wide receiver. The Packers don't have a number one wide receiver. We're going to say it a million times making these videos. The most successful teams in the NFL don't have a number one wide receiver. So that's not something that I'm really that worried about. I just want to see Matthew Golden make plays for him. And I know that Jordan Love is going to show up every Sunday and do what he needs to do. So, yeah, I think that taking a shot, a real chance at Matthew Golden, like getting that first round wide receiver and having him develop that rapport with Jordan Love. Let's see what is to be made of that. I'm excited to watch that happen. I did take Matthew Golden. I took Genty first, and then I traded back up into the first round in my dynasty draft and got Matthew Golden at 10. So I think Matthew Golden will be pretty good, but it's definitely time to take the next step, because something that we highlighted all the success of this football team. They didn't really have many significant roster losses, and I feel like they filled the holes in where they needed to with free agency and in the draft with the 9 picks in the draft and the guys that they got in free agency. But this team is still one of the youngest teams in the NFL, but it is time for them to take that next step. I feel like that's not an excuse for them anymore this year. Obviously health willing, but this team is primed. People are talking about how the Broncos are that team to take the next step and be really successful behind the scenes, behind the curtain. I don't know how you feel about this. Obviously, we haven't talked about it. I think this is the team that everybody should be talking about taking that next step. We highlighted about even in a year where their starting quarterback wasn't healthy, how successful this offense was passing and rushing, and how successful this defense was, and how big of a step that they took. They're getting everything back. They added more to it. They're in a division where it feels like the Vikings are going to regress. Feels like the Lions aren't going to win 15 games or 14 games, however many games they won last year. Again, I'm not really going to talk about the Bears. I need to see it. And then you have LaFleur, who wins almost 70% of his games. You get Jeff Hafley as your DC, and then you have the quarterback. This is the team, in my opinion, that people aren't giving enough love. This is the team to take the next step.
What do you think I know where you stand on the Jordan Love conversation. What do you think his perception is from like majority of like NFL fans? What do you think majority of NFL fans think of him?
I don't, for some reason, people like don't respect him. It's very, we got into it like an hour ago on this. Like, it's just like, if you aren't Patrick Mahomes, if you're not Josh Allen, like you like aren't a good quarterback for whatever reason. And there has legitimately been people, we've been in group chats where like people are like, oh, like I'm not sold on Jordan Love. But like, then like people be like, oh, like Jordan Love has like an interception problem. And but then they'll like praise Baker Mayfield, and Baker Mayfield led the league in interceptions last season. I just think that he's one of those guys that people just aren't ready to really accept how good he is as a player. And for whatever reason, I don't know why that's the case. I can't tell you why people perceive it that way. I think you perceive it that way as well. I feel like you're not sold on Jordan Love. You don't think he's that good of a player, but every single thing indicates that he is that good. I just think that, again, this is a team sport. And at times, I feel like the quarterback gets a little bit too much blame, portion of the blame pie, when over the past few years, like, it hasn't been a Jordan Love problem. I feel like this team has just ran into buzzsaws. And I think that they're an extremely young football team on both sides of the football. That's why I think it's just time to take that next step. And that's not just saying Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love is already there. I think he's going to show up every week and play and do what he needs to do. I'm talking about everybody else. Everybody else needs to play up to that level and be that team that I think they can be. I don't know what is your perception of that? Like, do you think a lot of people think that the Packers could be one of those teams, because they seem like an afterthought this season, like heavily?
So this is what I think. I have Jordan Love in like the 8 to 12 range, but what I see a lot of is people put him in like 14 to like 16, somewhere right in the middle. Um, I think I would have no issue putting Jordan Love higher if he played at so the end of last year, like the second half of last season, is when he was playing really well. And then he got hurt to start this season and wasn't playing that well up until the bye. And then after the bye is when he started to play his best football again. So I would have no issue putting him up there higher if in like the 5 to 7, 5 to 8 range if he were to put that together for a full year. And I know he got injured. I almost think him trying to play through injury like hurts him a little bit because if you were to and the criticism to that is like, oh well, he went out there and he played injured, like he's a tough guy. Like, okay, sure, that's great, but at the same time, like that also puts you in a negative light if you're not playing necessarily well while you're injured because you're still going out there and playing. So like we have to judge you off of what we see. I think if he wouldn't have gone out, I think if he would have rested the entire time that he needed to
They
and
wouldn't have
just
been a
come out.
playoff team.
Well,
They would not have been a playoff team.
They won. No, I know that, but I'm gonna say I think that people would look at him as a much better quarterback if he would have not come out and not played at a lower level while he was injured. If he would have just played,
what were the
go
two
ahead.
games that Malik Willis stepped in and won last season?
It was the Colts and the Titans, but up until that Cardinals game was when he wasn't like. After the bye, his numbers were better.
So the Colts and the Titans.
I believe so. So I'm looking at this right now. Pre-bye, it was negative 0.01 EPA per attempt, 44% success rate, 7.6 yards per attempt, 61% completion rate. Post-bye, plus 0.2 EPA per attempt, 49% success rate, 8.5 yards per attempt, 65% completion rate. Undoubtedly played better after the bye. And I don't think it was like awful because they were still going out and winning those games when he came back. But I think if he would have still waited a little bit and they figured out a way to win, but then again, that goes to your point, like they don't make the playoffs without him.
Yeah, you're talking about the two games that Malik Willis won. Shout out to him, that was awesome. But those are against two of the worst teams in the entire NFL.
Yeah, I know they didn't have to throw the
football. Titans obviously had the first overall pick.
I'm just trying to tell you as to why I think that's the narrative. Because I don't think he's put together like the full season of playing at the level that he's shown that he can play at.
Being tough is a part of it. Like you look at,
I agree.
I'm going to go back to like Kyler Murray, for example. Kyler Murray dinged his ankle 3 seasons ago during the peak of his MVP run and sat out maybe for a little bit too long and completely derailed his entire season. When internally, it felt like that was an injury that he could have played through. And he got knocked for not playing through that injury. Doesn't matter if you're injured or not. If you feel like you can go because Jordan Love on one leg is better.
I know that
the shoulder is better than Malik Willis.
I agree.
So it doesn't matter what the public perception is or not. What we're looking at.
That was the question. That's what I was just trying to tell you as to why I think that's what it is.
I'm rebuting this. The statement is we just went over everything about this team. And even though he had these injury problems, this offense was still a top 5 offense in the NFL. So I'm not seeing what other people are seeing, I guess. And maybe I'm wrong. Like I'm more than open to being wrong. But when I watch Jordan Love play and when I watch the Packers play, I'm watching a master at work. I'm not watching what everybody else is watching. And I don't know why that is. And I've always been like a little bit of like a Jordan Love defender at a certain point. I do think that he has a little like Brett Favre in his game. I'm not going to sit here and say that he doesn't, but I also think that he has like a lot of like Aaron Rodgers in his game as well. And that's not like, it's weird to say that because he's obviously one of those Green Bay Packers guys and they both were too. I couldn't tell you. I don't know why we're sitting here talking about a team who, I'm not going to go over the whole spiel again of like the sales pitch, but I feel like I stated it pretty clearly, that has all of this, has the accolades, has the top 5 offense, has the top 10 defense, and has the quarterback who you just said I would put him in the top 10. Okay, you have all of this stuff. What's holding you back? What's holding this team back from getting over the hump? Quite literally nothing.
It's got to be something.
If they run into any team other than the Eagles in the playoffs last season, they probably win a playoff game. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. They held the Eagles to the least amount of points.
I said at the beginning of this that the Eagles just have their number.
It's not that they have their number. The Eagles had everyone. They had the entire league's number last season. It wasn't about an individual team's number. The Eagles were just that good. So I don't think that is like something that needs to be harped on that crazy. The Eagles are one of the best teams in the entire league every single season. So that's not like having a specific team. They have the entire NFL's number. Is that fair to say?
All I'm saying is I agree with you if they would have played somebody besides the Eagles. He just hasn't beaten them since he's ever played them.
Yeah, a lot of teams, and guess what? A lot of guys haven't. A lot of guys haven't beat the Eagles. So I'm not going to sit here and harp on the fact of Jordan Love can't beat the best team in the NFL of the last like 3 seasons. If we're taking like a 3-season sample size, which is when Jordan Love has been the starter, the Eagles have been undoubtedly one of the best teams in the league, if not the best. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely like, last year. Definitely last year.
And 2 years ago.
They were not one of the best teams in the NFL 2 years ago.
2 years ago? When they went to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs?
2 years ago when they went 0-6 to finish the season?
No, that was 3 years ago. I mean,
3 years ago.
3 years ago. 3 years ago. How many games did they win when they went 0-6 to end up the year? 11 games.
Yeah, but that was fool's gold. But this isn't about the Eagles. I was more so just trying to explain. Like, I agree with you. If they wouldn't have played Philly, they would have won a game.
Okay, so that's where what's holding you back then? Like, I'm sitting. This is you. You are a Jordan Love hater.
I'm not being a hater. I want to see him do it for a full season.
I've had multiple conversations with you where you do not.
I'm not a hater because these people. I picked the Packers to play in the Super Bowl last year.
I'm just saying. I'm telling you what you have said.
I want to see Jordan Love play at this level that I know he can play at for a full season. He hasn't been able to put together a full season yet, whether that is...
What does that mean? I really need to understand what you mean by that.
Play
I don't get that.
An elite level for more than half of a season. I get that he battled injuries. That happens. I know it's in there, but I still want to see you do it for a full year. I want to see him stay completely healthy and put together an MVP season. That's really all that I'm at. That's all that I want to see. Just play a full season. That's what I want to see. But I'm not putting him in like, there's people that have him at like 14, 15, 16 best quarterback in the NFL. I think that's crazy.
We're sitting here. This is just what I'm confused about. This is all. 2023, when he started for his first full season, 64% completion percentage, 4,200 yards, 32 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Last year,
when you dive into it,
games, he had 63% completion percentage, 3,400 yards, 25 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He got sacked 30 times in 2023, 14 in 2024. I guess I'm not understanding what more you want him to do, I guess, is where I'm at.
You're just looking at it in totality, which is fair. But if you go back and dive into it, the second half of 2023, he was playing absolutely lights out. And then the second half of
Correct.
2024, he was playing absolutely lights out. I want to see him do that for a full season. And then I'll have no problem putting him in the fifth best quarterback in the NFL. He has the
But when
talent
we
to
look
do
at
that.
teams, like the Rams, and you don't have any problem giving that accolade to Stafford, but they don't heat up until after their bye week every single season, and they're clicking on all cylinders. It's been the last 3 years that's been the case.
There can only be one person sixth, that there can only be one person
But
seventh.
but the same
We've
every
also
single
seen
football
Matt
team across the entire NFL. They heat up after a certain point.
We've also seen Matt
Go ahead.
Stafford play at an elite level for more than we've seen Jordan Love do that. So I think Matt Stafford
Completely fair.
gets more benefit of the doubt in that conversation.
Completely fair, but also at the same time, we watch that happen league wide, where teams you don't want to be playing your best football in September. Nobody does. So
I
I view
agree.
that as a positive, that when we're getting to the home stretch of every single season, we watch the Green Bay Packers turn it into another gear. We've watched them do that 2 straight seasons with Jordan Love. He's shown that he's capable of doing that. And we watch that happen with a lot of quarterbacks across the entire league. So that's where I'm disconnected. That's all I'll say, is like where I feel like people harp on, like, people are like, oh, like, well, like week 3, it's like, well, okay, well, like, you don't want to, like, who gives a fuck what happened in week 3? The totality of the season, he played at a very high level, and he turned it on, and he played at a high level during the stretch that it mattered most. So I don't know what more you could want out of Jordan Love. I think if you wanted, if me being I'm sitting here defending Jordan Love with my armor, like, what I will say, what I want to see more out of Jordan Love and see him do better is, I don't want him to be as, like, fuck it mode as much as he does, where
I
it
agree.
seems to get to, like, to a point where things aren't, like, working out in the intermediate, and Jordan Love has the arm talent and the ability, and he just goes fuck it mode and starts slinging the rock. I would like to probably see him not do that as much, because of how high level this run offense is. I think that you can kind of get away with a lot more than he allows them to. So I think that's probably a fair critique of, like, what I want out of his game. But, like, from a totality perspective and what you're getting from Jordan Love, like, on a week to week basis, I feel like he's giving you the best, like, what some of the best guys in the NFL does. I think Jordan Love gives you the equivalent to what some of those guys do as well.
Yeah, that's why I have him in the range that I have him. I think he's a good
Yeah.
quarterback. I'm not sitting here, like I said, I'm not. I think people that are putting him at like 14, 15, 16 is crazy. I think
Yeah.
because he's been injured, and he I think that plays against him. And I think that's fine. I think you have to be able to put together a full season at a high level. And I don't think, like, I think you can play well at the beginning of the season and play well at the end of the season too. Like, that's okay. I'm not going to
I
fault you. I'm not going to fault you
I'm definitely,
for
yeah,
that.
obviously. Yeah. Yeah. Obviously. I guess I feel like, I feel like people are acting like he's, like,
There's people
terrible.
that are not me that think he's much worse than I do.
Yeah, oh, trust me, I know. There's some people in your camp who think that, like, that he stinks. I don't. I think that
I definitely don't think he stinks.
I
And
think
there's
that
plenty
people
of
are
numbers to
dead
back
wrong
that
on
up.
that. Yeah, I mean, we went over everything. I don't know what that is. I just think that I think people are wrong. I think what it comes down to is just, you, even last season, like, coming down to just, like, you don't run it. You don't play in the best division in football. and then have to go and play the Eagles in the playoffs after playing the best division in football for the entire regular season. It's like, okay, we just ran into a buzzsaw. We're screwed.
Yeah, I think if he goes out and he puts together a year like he did for the back half of last year, then he could legitimately win the MVP. Because I don't think that you're going to have a 14 and a 15 win team. I don't think the Eagles will be as good. I think the Packers have a great chance to come out of the NFC.
I'm with you. One last thing, and then let's move on. I think they have everything in place. We went over that already. I think that you're not saying this. I see a lot of people saying this. The wide receiver one talk, it doesn't matter at all. And we did this in a few episodes in a row because these teams who are at the top of the league, they're like, they start splitting hairs and they're like, oh, like they need a number one wide receiver. But then like when like the Panthers get Tedero McMillan, like they're not a real threat. Like it'd be sitting here saying like, oh, they got a number one wide receiver. The Panthers are great now. The Chiefs don't have a number one wide receiver. The Bills don't have a number one wide receiver. The Ravens don't have a number one wide receiver. The Eagles have a weak pass game. Just having a number one wide receiver does not translate to success, high end success in the NFL. And I feel like the Packers are built similarly to the teams that I just mentioned. The Eagles have a really great run game. The Ravens have a really great run game. The Bills have a really great run game. The Chiefs supplement their run game with some quick short pass game and behind the line of scrimmage. But I think that the Packers are built just like these teams at the top of the bill in the NFL. So I just wanted to highlight that. Do you have anything that you want to say? I mean,
yeah,
I was going to agree with that. Do you agree with
I was going to throw in there. You don't I agree with you. I don't think you necessarily need a number one wide receiver, but you also can't lead the league in drops unless you have like an insane amount of luck elsewhere. Like the Chiefs led the league in drops and they played in a Super Bowl. You have to be lucky other areas on the field.
Do you agree with that? The Packers are built similarly to the top teams.
Yeah. Their strength is probably going to be running the football. Josh Jacobs is fucking good, and
they're really good. Yeah,
that will help with hopefully Jordan Love saying, "Okay, I have to throw this ball 75 times a game." They don't need to because they can get 120 yards per game out of Josh Jacobs.
Okay. That's a better. I like that better than what you were saying earlier. Let's just put it that way. We can move on though. The Vegas win total for this team is 9.5. From the sounds of this conversation, you know that I'm a clear over on this. I think this is disrespectful. I think this should be the same likes as like I think they should probably be at like 10.5 just because of what happened in the division last year. To win the NFC North plus 275. Love that. To win the NFC chip plus 1100. I love that. To play in the Super Bowl, to win the Super Bowl is plus 2,000. I love all of these bets. I mean, this is like if I were to bet on some futures, this is at the top of the bill, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. I picked the Packers to make the Super Bowl last year. I'm not doing that this year, but I am still high on them.
Jordan Love plus 2,000 to win the MVP, to have the most passing yards, and plus 1,900 to have the most passing touchdowns. I don't know.
What was the Matthew Golden offensive rookie of the year number? Because that is
plus 2,500.
Yeah, that would be one that I have highlighted as well.
And the last one that I have here is Josh Jacobs plus 1,900 most rushing yards. He did it a few seasons ago. He's finally kind of got a home in Green Bay. Can we see Josh Jacobs return to that form? I mean, he had a pretty damn good season last year. I don't see why not.
I don't see why not either. And I think this team will be even better than they were last year.
Wow. So you're an over candidate then?
I am an over candidate.
Some key matchups. Obviously, they're in like a must like watch division. Obviously,
yeah.
And they are Week 10 at Lambeau against the Eagles. I absolutely love that game. Gonna love that game. I'm sure you will too. That's just gonna be a fun game to watch, especially at Lambeau Field.
Monday night in Lambeau, November. It's gonna be cold. You get to snuggle up on the couch.
That's gonna be a good game. That's gonna be a really good game.
It's gonna be a banger.
I'm trying to see if there's any positive their rest advantage disadvantage is at a slight deficit. Nothing too big on the higher end or the lower end. The only thing that is being short rested for like the high profile matchup against the Eagles, they're going to be a -7 days on that compared to the Eagles. Just something to highlight. I mean, no matter what, they're going to be going into that game fired up to play against the Eagles and to win that football game. So I don't think that like matters like as much, but yeah. Anything else you want to add about that before we get into the prediction?
It's not like, I was going to say, it's not like they're playing like, I mean, maybe the week before is a week that we keep an eye out for a look ahead game because they play the Panthers the week before, and every other week of the year, the Packers should beat the Panthers. But
love that.
A week before you go play the team that's had your number the last few years at home, like that could be a look ahead scenario. So let's keep that in mind once we get to week 10 of the regular season.
Against the Panthers, it's at home at 1:00. If it was at Carolina at 1:00, that would have been
that's fair.
The easiest like no look bet of all time. Like that would have been like, okay, like that's a trap. Like
true. It is.
I'm excited.
Home.
I'm excited for that Eagles game. That's going to be a really great game. I'm actually going to the October 19th game they're going to be at Arizona. I'm going to be at that Green Bay game. I got asked like, what are the games that you want to go to? I could choose any Arizona Cardinals game. Looked at their schedule. I was like, Packers are going to be must watch TV. They're going to be one of the best teams in the NFL. I need to go and watch the Cardinals versus Packers. So to get into the 2025 prediction, I like them to win this division. I can't tell if I like just how it's shaping out and what it looks like. They're probably going to have to win 12 to 13 games, it looks like. So I'm just going to go a little bit on the higher end and say they're going to win 13 games this season. A few reasons. Everything that we laid out, I'm not going to go over that too much again, but the main reason is I still don't trust Chicago. They went 1-5 in the division last year. Like I said, the only game that they won was a field goal block against Chicago. I don't trust Chicago this year. I don't see why they would be better than them. So I like that matchup. I think the Lions are going to be a little bit worse. And I definitely think the Vikings are going to be a lot worse than they were last year. And I think that the team that's on this uptick trajectory is the Green Bay Packers. So yeah, I think that they're going to be the team representing the NFC this year in the Super Bowl. I mean, I'm just not going to go back-to-back years with the Eagles. That feels like the easy pick, and I'm just never going to do that. It's just not how I'm ingrained in my brain. So I'm not going to do that. I just like the Packers to obviously win the NFC, play in the Super Bowl. I don't know if I love them to win the Super Bowl. I think I'm still on that Ravens train as of right now on this date on August 14th, but this is my team to represent the NFC.
Believe it or not, I also have the Packers to go 13-4, but
nice.
I haven't decided on my Super Bowl matchup quite yet. But they're certainly up there. They're certainly up there. Once we're done with all 32, I'll have it done. I'll have my decision made before that. But there's some other things. There's a couple of things that
the safest pick on the board is the Eagles. Obviously, I mean they're still really good. I mean, I just think that like how many teams really go back to back like that? I mean, so obviously we watch it happen with the Chiefs and stuff every year in and year out, and I feel like I feel like the last time the Eagles made the Super Bowl too, it was like the Eagles are going to be in the Super Bowl every year. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was like they were that good.
Yeah.
So you just don't know. I think that we probably see a new cast of teams in the Super Bowl this year. So Green Bay is definitely at the top of the list for me.
I just can't pick the Eagles on record to win the Super
I get
Bowl because they won the Super Bowl when I didn't pick them on record. So I'm trying to not jinx them. But the Packers are certainly one of the teams that are that'll probably end up being in like my top 3 from the NFC. Realistically, it'll be top 2 because the Eagles are obviously a good team. So I want to try and figure out potentially 2 other teams that I could see being put in there.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's not interesting discourse around the Packers, especially like some of the points that you made. I do think everything's really interesting. I don't know why this team feels disrespect. I've even seen people pick them to finish 3rd in the division this year and things like that. It's just like, I don't know. I don't see that. Or the Bears finishing over them. The Bears are going to be really good this year. I really don't see that happening at all. So, but
I just don't think the Bears are going to be there yet.
No, definitely not. Not with Caleb Williams.
I don't know. I'm leaving that open for another year. But if they can't get it done this year, then I'll start to have some questions.
And Packers fans, if you're in Arizona, if you guys want to link up with me, let me know. Let me know.
I just spit it. Good girl, we're getting paper as a passion. Collect the stacks and bring it back, man, and take vision.